Welcome in, everyone. RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here. John is not here. This is a Ted-only show. And welcome to the fun. John had to take his punishment while I was sipping Mai Tais on the beach. And I wasn't sipping Mai Tais, but I was on the beach. I was enjoying myself. I was relenting the fact that I didn't have to talk about DC United. And knowing that I would probably have to come back this week and talk about another loss, which I am. So you get me today. You don't get John. We'll be back to our full strength side, even though maybe maybe it doesn't seem so much fun. But we're here for you guys. I put out the call at 12 for the questions. I'm staring at the abyss, and you guys always come through and warm my heart with questions, with comments, humor, all that stuff. Particularly enjoyed the This is Spinal Tap DC United edition on the Discord. That was quite funny. So you guys always find a way to make it fun as we watch probably a wooden spoon contending team at this point. I don't know if I want to get too much into the match. I mean, there's some performances you can call out. There were certainly some bright spots. I would say over the course of the game, it was either even or maybe slightly tilted towards DC United. The difference being DC United has one DP on the field. New England, despite being terrible, did have at least two, I think 3 DPs, two of which who scored, both in Carlos Gil and Campana. Both those players are designated players. They elevate the game for a reason. Campana seemed to be able to just jump over either Kai Rawls or Lucas Bartlett at will. That's how he got the first goal. The second, of course, comes from Carlos Gil, kind of lightly passing a ball into the back of the net. DC United had chances. There were several chances. Forced a couple good saves out of Matt Turner, which my Richmond kicker's heart probably loved. But clearly my DC United heart did not love the fact that he was making those saves. And it's really like difficult to like talk about this team right now. It is super frustrating to try to sit here every week, talk about things, and I'm not really going to talk about the game. There were some good moments. Pirani had a couple nice runs. They forced the pressure into some uncomfortable situations. The chances in the beginning kind of mostly came from set pieces. They were playing very direct. They found Benteke a couple of times, but this is a game that kind of blares out the decisions of Ali Mackay at the beginning of the season and the decision to hamper this team without a designated player, which I've talked about at length. The decision to rely upon his ability to find value out of players, and I think maybe this year he overestimated his ability to find that value. I'm not sure if I'm ready to give up on like all of the players he's brought in, but I think it's pretty clear this team needs more help and this team needs more talent. And the summer window is fast approaching being closed. I think we have less than 2 weeks until the window closes. I'll get into the makings of how we're not hearing about players, about, are we cooked? Are we going to get into this summer window without any players? I would say probably not, but I'll get into that. Moments from the game. This game is just kind of played out when your team is bad. These are two bad teams. New England is not a good team. DC United is not a good team. Both teams sort of found moments. Both teams had opportunities where if Pirani inches the ball and is able to kind of put it towards the net, if Kojima is able to sort of sneak the ball under Matt Turner, if Pirani is able to sort of keep his shot on target, and he had a excellent chance to make this game 1-0. This game might have gone another way. This game was always going to, in my mind, going to be about whoever scores first is going to win it, because the other teams are just so deflated, so unbelievably distraught that they're just going to drop their heads. Probably maybe a little bit of a surprising start, though not really. I think sort of the clearest indication, even though I don't think they'll admit it, is that this season is done and dusted, is that Kim Jung-hong took the field. I don't think that was any side against Luisa Barraza. I think this is let's give the new coach some breath. Let's give the coach some new teams. And honestly, I don't think he covered himself in glory. It really, to me, feels like a confidence thing. Kim Jong-un looks like he is just completely second guessing himself. There was a shot that was played where he kind of nearly went through his hands into the back of the net. The first goal, I think there's some people giving him some blame for that. I don't know. It's a really powerful header from Campana. I'm not sure there's much he can really do about that. The second goal, though, kind of a low range shot that he just kind of gives up on. And that's never actually a good thing to see. You never want to be in a moment and sort of watch as the ball kind of trickles past you. I kind of saw that live and I thought it was like a harder shot. I was like, oh, maybe he should have died for that. And then I kind of see it on replay and I'm like, oh, he definitely should have died for that. I think if he maybe gets a half step, there's possibly a chance that he makes it. So he looks completely cooked. Defensively, this team looks cooked. This team just looks like they are looking for a reason to drop their shoulders. Nothing goes right unless everything magically something happens where they get a lead or they make it look interesting. They might get a chance, but this team just drops their shoulders. This is a team that is cratering towards the wooden spoon unless there's some sort of miraculous major signing that comes through. The vibes are very, very bad right now. And they're bad for multiple reasons. This team just feels like it is seeding into kind of the background of DC sports. There's no coverage of the team. There's nothing else really going on. I want to let's get to some questions here. I think this is from Ollie Anthon on Blue Sky. Says, this is the darkest period in DC United's history. I know the 2013 season was rough, and I started following in 2014, so I missed it. I can't think of a worse time in the decade, at least in the 20-teens. We had the excuse of no stadium. Is this the darkest period in DC United history? I think it is. I thought that 2022, 2023 was dark. Like, we had the whole situation with Taxi Funtas. We had a coach that was brought in and let go. It felt like this team was completely directionless. And they just it felt like it's like, what are we doing? Like, there's nothing here. There's no sense. We've cycled now through like 3 different coaches. It all just looks bad and terrible. Like, everything just feels like it's just sort of coming undone. I thought that was rock bottom. And then I thought, okay, now we got we got Ali Mackay. We got a new director of soccer operations. We've got at least something that, like, we're going to at least see something different. It might not work, but at least it's something different. I didn't know that the rock bottom where we hit had a basement. It's bad. It feels really bad. I don't think bringing out Rennie Wheeler, even the rollout of Rennie Wheeler, has not gone to plan. And I think this is kind of adding to anything right now. Jim JJ Manzer on our Discord says, things are hopeless right now, but I want to try to stay pragmatic. Assuming Wheeler does get his visa, is there anything that he can do this season that would be considered progress? If so, what do you want to see? I guess I'll get to that question in a minute. And I think Adric Soccer, I think it's Adink Soccer on Blue Sky. Hopefully I got that right. At this point, do we even want Wheeler to coach this season? If he does it, will likely have no meaningful impact on the season ends, and other teams then have film on his stats going the next season. That's I don't think that's stuff you really want to worry about. If he gets his visa and he gets healthy, then yes, he should be in here. Let's talk about, I guess, the media landscape. The what is kind of going on, what's sort of been happening over this week, sort of off the team, which was there was a post that was made on Thursday that the Rennie Wheeler was going to be unveiled. He'd already been announced as coach, working through the visa process. We are fast approaching 1 month since we announced. We know things are a mess with regards to visas and immigration in this country. It's bad. It's terrible. Some players seem to get all the luck. Song seemed to got his visa very quickly. I don't know. Who knows? It's all a weird game, especially right now. As I'm sure many of you all who are in DC right now are well aware of how weird and terrible things are right now. But for whatever reason, they had a press conference and announced them. I said, oh, okay, well, maybe. And I was like, well, it's on Friday. I don't know. Maybe he gets a flight up. Maybe he's ready to go. I don't know. My thought is I don't think we'll ever know the true reason. It seems like maybe it was visa related, but they announced the press conference and then canceled the press conference. Said it will be rescheduled in the coming days. My theory at the time, I was like, I think they they wouldn't be stupid enough to like schedule a press conference without him having his visa. And maybe they're using the whole like, sorry, something happened. He doesn't have his visa as an excuse. He did apparently appear. There was a team meet and greet. Apparently they didn't really hear much from him. They heard a lot from Dave Johnson, a lot from ownership, sort of gassing this up, saying we're going to commit resources. We're going to do this. Yes, we've all heard this before. From ownership, from everywhere else. It's becoming a running joke. It really feels like this. They keep telling about how, now we're going to put resources together. We get the stadium. Now we're going to put resources together. I don't believe it until I see it, until I see this team actually do it and go and commit. My initial theory, though, is that they made this announcement. They called up the Washington Post. They called up NBC4. They called up all these local. And I was like, "Are you guys WTOP? Are you guys going to cover us?" And I think the resounding thought was, "No, we're not going to cover you. Sorry." The Commanders have a home game. We already know how newsrooms are stripped. And they said, "Well, we don't want this to be embarrassing. We don't want this to be where we don't have a coach to actually them. So let's just cancel this press conference. We'll reschedule it. He's not going to coach anyway against New England. So it's all good and done." But just an abject mess to announce a press conference, to unveil your coach, and then cancel it. This team is Sideshow Bob stepping on rakes over and over again this year, is what it's felt like. Nothing has gone right. Everything has been a disaster. Everything has blared up that this team is just a mess internally. From ownership, from the going after of Paul Pogba to the leaving open of the DP slot, everything about it just feels bad. And I don't know. In previous years, I've always tried to keep a modicum of hope. I think I've talked about this. I have to go and do a show every week. I got to have some hope. And maybe I'll get to some of these questions. Maybe trying to scheme a modicum of hope here. And maybe I'll find a little bit of hope here. Maybe this is my ability to gain that. But it just really does feel like this whole organization is a mess, and it's like I'm not even sure we're at rock bottom. I want to say it's rock bottom, but I'm not even sure it is. And then there's the nature of the current media landscape right now. Stephen Goff, longtime Washington Post reporter, took a buyout. And is no longer at the Washington Post. As such, the DC United coverage from the Washington Post has essentially evaporated in the span of a couple weeks. The AP, I went in, I said, let me check in. I want to see, even if he wasn't there, did they send Thomas Flanagan? I think it's his name. Did they send Thomas Floyd? I don't say Flanagan. Flanagan's the coach. Thomas Floyd. They send Thomas Floyd up to New England. Even that, don't send to New England. Just tell him, watch the game, write a report, get some post-media press conferences, put something up there. They did not. The Spirit even didn't get. They're the team I think more worthy of coverage, and they literally got nothing as well. Just an Associated Press article thrown onto the sports page, as generic as you possibly can be. This I think spells more than ever that this is kind of the end. The Washington Post is not going to commit resources unless this team suddenly gets better or starts to demand it. The Spirit should get resources, but this is the nature of newsrooms right now. The Spirit should actually have a beat writer. They should have somebody covering this team wall to wall. They are a team that is going out, being aggressive, finding talent. They played to a 0-0 draw against Gotham, New York. Had some really dangerous moments. They've got Trinity Rodman, a player who, when she steps on the field, even in opposing stadiums, people cheer. The Spirit should absolutely get the coverage. DC United has done nothing to deserve any of this coverage. So I canceled my Washington Post subscription. I was kind of holding on to it literally just for Stephen Goff stories. And now it's done. It's over with. I don't know what the future is going to hold. Even if this team gets better, I don't know if there will be suddenly people will point out or will come out and they'll actually hire somebody to do this. Maybe they will hire somebody in a couple weeks. I think I'm letting my wallet speak by saying, nope, I'm not going to pay anymore until I see some actual change in that. Let's get back. I want to get to some of these other questions. And I probably am getting a little bit off the board here. A lot of talk about June. And I think I'll get to this question from Simply B1 on our Discord. Nick question. I like June. I want him to succeed, but I wonder if his goal positioning awareness is lacking. The first goal went into the middle of the net, and he looked like he positioned himself close to the near post. Then he needed to given the way the play was unfolding. Then he was caught flat-footed on a reachable second goal, which I'm sure was part because he couldn't see the play very well. The defense is leaky, and it's mostly the blame, but I feel like the goals Barraza concedes, and much less gettable compared to June. Wondering if you still think he may need some goal awareness improvement, or if I'm being overcritical. I don't think you're being overly critical. And Jacob asked, why do you think Kim started this past weekend? He looked shaky. Do you think it's a new coach could get a sense of the team? That's exactly what it is. I think they wanted to put him out there. I think they wanted to see what he could. They wanted to say, hey, we need to give the coach maybe some footage, maybe see if he's developed at all. I'm sure Wheeler has been maybe watching some of the games, maybe picking up some items about how he could play. But is it purely, I think they know the season's pretty much over. This team has to basically run the table and get help. This year is all about right now just avoiding the wooden spoon, or getting some sort of signing in or some sort of change that gives you at least the slimmest possible hope that things could improve or get better. And right now, it's been a entire season where it just hasn't been that. Nothing has worked out fully. There's been moments, there's been brief times where you're like, well, maybe this will work, and it just hasn't. And it's getting less and less. It's getting more and more dire, I guess, as the season goes on. And Juress, I think there's been a lot of questions about this, and I want to get to this. How will you react if DC makes zero meaningful moves in the transfer window? Is it wise to allow a new coach to choose his players, or just another wasted window? I have a sneaking suspicion that this move has been in the works for a while. I have a feeling that there are moves that this team maybe was waiting on or looking to make a move on at the window. You have these conversations, you have these discussions. I think, you look at what was talked about when Wayne Rooney came in the middle of the season. There were players that the scouts had looked at. There were players that everyone had looked at, and they presented these to Wayne Rooney. And Wayne Rooney said, nope, I want Ravel Morrison. So I have a feeling that those discussions have already started to happen. Maybe as soon as he gets his visa, they're probably going to present. I guarantee you there are moves that they are looking to make. Again, MLS still has Discovery. So they still have the ability to basically hold a player and say, we're going to be primarily negotiating with this player. Obviously, that doesn't impact if they move. You might be missing out on some, but I think that there are players that they have identified, or maybe even Rennie Wheeler has identified as players he wants to try to bring into this organization. They still have a one designated player spot. I think the lack of real movement, the lack of true, you talk about radio silence. Is there any, Jason1551 says, is there any actual player news to discuss, or radio silence from Bogart about any move? We have seen some. We know that apparently Malmo in Sweden wants Gabriel Pirani. I think the team should maybe take that option and get some cash in and call it a day, but they seem maybe interested in keeping Pirani. That seemed to me maybe to be an indication that they want to maybe give this another whirl with maybe a better supporting cast. He's been the one player that has actually sort of shown up and played decent. He's not a number 10, but he has been decent. As far as the radio silence, I think it's important to consider Tom Bogart is one man. Tom Bogart does a lot. I think there are things that he's hearing. I think there are things that Stephen Goff might have been hearing before he left. I think there are things that a lot of people are hearing. This isn't like you don't just report when you're a seasoned reporter. You don't just report every single thing you do. You also need to be careful what you report. You got to vouch for it. And make sure that it comes from a source that's reliable, because sometimes, agents throw things at you and try to drum up interest. And you see those articles all the time. There was one article from some Polish source about Benteke apparently signing with the Polish team. Guys, please don't believe everything you read. I do not believe for a second that Benteke is off to some Polish team until Bogart reports it, but it's not happening, guys. I'm not even going to give that person the night of day. I think it is you read through some of his other stuff too. He has very little followers. I think he's just trying to manifest some stuff. Probably knows it because Click is on the team and everything like that. I think this team is working on moves. Kevin Flanagan has mentioned it, that they're working on moves. He's not privy to that type of stuff. And honestly, that's kind of not surprising. He is just brought in to kind of keep the wheels turning, keep everybody focused, and essentially hand over the reins to Rennie Wheeler, give him some players to look at. There's a reason. There is an absolute reason why. Basically nobody. I think that coaching staff right now is bare bones. I think it's Flanagan, maybe the goalkeeper coach, maybe another coach that sort of was brought in by Ali Mackay. Again, you look at Troy Lesane, and the assistant coach he brought in, whose name escapes me right now, is gone. I'm really not putting too much stock in Kevin Flanagan. He's not gonna be on the end. His job is to be the academy director. His main job is to run the academy. His job is not to coach the first and professional team. That's going to be Rennie Wheeler's job when he takes over, presumably next week. I am feeling like they have to be close to where this is going to happen. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't happen. So, and this also got the question, I believe, from Slide Tackle: is Kevin Flanagan out of the academy job after this run, whether by the front office or his own disgust? I think he'll go back to the academy. I think he knew the role he was taking on just to kind of help things out. I think he'll go back to the academy. I don't think the front office is going to lay any of this on the feet of him. They've already made some big initiatives as far as the academy. They have release their new documentation their video on the program that they're launching, the sort of residency program, which had some truths and some not so truths on kind of the state of it. But they are certainly going to I think he's going to go back to the role. I think it'll be fine. I think he will be very glad to no longer be in this role and coaching this team. I think the team is just kind of going through the motions at this point. I think you're looking at the players that might be really putting in 100% effort. I think and I don't say everything everybody's putting in, but I think some of the players that, like, you talk about Gabriel Pirani getting some transfer interest. You talk about others, I think, are just maybe kind of waiting until the shoe drops and you've got your players, you've got the players in there, and you're ready to rock and roll. Let's get into the next question, kind of looking at the future. From Bear Witness says, who would you retain from the current roster for next year? I feel like it's a really difficult question. I think the ultimate problem is that this team has now started to load themselves back up on contracts, and things are not good. To give Mackay credit, he effectively cleaned house on this roster. The problem is he's loaded it up with players and contracts that I don't know if he really wants to, that he would really want to necessarily look at keeping, but I don't know how you're going to get out of it. I think some of them he could get out of it. We look at, I think I'm finally ready to say Boris Enau is kind of a bust. I don't know if I want him back next year. Maybe you find a way to get rid of him. Kim Jung-hong, I want to keep just because he's not a talent for nothing. He's certainly somebody who's still on the roster. His issues is still on, like, the South Korean national team. His issues seem more more dug into the fact that I think it's just a confidence thing for him. I think he is just completely devoid of confidence, and I think you got to figure out a way to get that out of him. He's a young goalkeeper. Goalkeepers go through that all the time. Talk about other players. Peglo, obviously, want to see him back. Leao, no, don't think he's done enough. Herrera, still want to see him back. Fletcher, I think we'll see back. I think they're players that you still want to. Schnegg, I still want to see him back. I think he's proven. I think I don't lay everything kind of at the feet of him. Kojima's, solid player. I think the biggest thing for this team right now is they have to find a way to get more talent in that can kind of compete and maybe push some of these guys down or get them to succeed. I think that's kind of the biggest problem right now is that this team is made up of players that are okay. They can have moments like you had in this game against New England. They can go out there and put together a performance and get opportunities, get chances, but they're just not good enough. You need high level talent, DP level talent out there, and you have one where his influence on the game can still be mighty. Don't get me wrong. He can still have an influence on the game, but his influence is very much you need players around him to sort of supply him to get the best out of him. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. There's not really, other than maybe the occasional play from Pirani. Obviously when Peglo's out there, things look a little more lively. But overall, it just looks like a team that needs more talent and bigger talent. So I don't know. I almost want to just give almost everybody, particularly anybody who arrived last, with the exception of maybe a couple. I just want to give them another year with actually 3 designated players out there. Hopefully that comes this summer. It's really, I have a feeling, and this, what I hate is, I wonder if almost the season's done. No, even if you brought in a DP today, even if you brought in a DP at the beginning of the window, even if you slotted him into this roster, even if he hit he absolutely hit, no way this team is making the playoffs. No way they're making up the 17-point gap or 14, 13-point gap. Too much of a thing. I wonder if they almost said, we're gonna sign somebody, but let's cool it. I don't know. I do hope they come up with something. If they don't, man, it really makes me question what this year was for with everything. Other question from Slide Tackle 84 says, Benteke Paulson lean towards cutting him loose after this year. Production has gone down and is trending worse. I don't know if do you even want to stay? I don't know if he would even want to stay. I don't know if you are Ali Mackay, you almost need to find 3 designated players, find players that can hit. I don't know if you take the chance and say, well, we got another option year on his contract. We already have to go find, you hopefully find one this summer. Then you maybe look to the winter to maybe find somebody, or you're, worse off, looking in the other direction for the summer. I don't know, man. There's been a lot of this team has a lot of this summer, a lot of this roster has not come together well. I don't know. I find it hard. I am I usually, when you have a DP that's been good, he's still gotten 8 goals this year. How terrible this year has been, he still has 8 goals. So he still can be effective when he's given the service, when he's given the delivery. Undoubtedly, he makes this team a better team. I don't know. I don't know what you do with him. I don't know if he would want to come back. Maybe he would. Maybe he'd be like, yeah, let's, clearly this was a bad year, but, I see that we're trying to do things differently, or we're trying to get other players in here, or maybe there's something he's not seeing that everything. I don't know. That's going to be probably one of the most interesting things to watch as this kind of year progresses, and as the summer window progresses, because we're fast approaching the end of the deadline and we have very little else to talk about. I don't know what to tell everybody, what's there to be positive about. I think the question came from JJ Manzer 88 says, assuming Wheeler does get his visa, is there anything he can do with this season that would be considered progress? If so, what would you want to see? I don't know, man. I don't know if this roster is good enough where we're really even going to see him make much of an impact. Maybe he will. Maybe once there's a coach out here in the field, some players might get a second lease of life. Maybe Pelzla comes in and starts playing really well. I don't know. I legitimately don't know what I would want to see at this point. The biggest thing I want to see from this team is pointed squarely at Ali Mackay to give us some more talent. They have, I believe, an extra international slot. I think it was David Schnegg was rumored, I think, to get his green card. So he wouldn't count as an international. I believe I saw that correctly. Another reason why I would keep him next year. He doesn't count as an international. So you have that free slot to utilize next year. And you're going to drop some other players who were internationals on this team. But I don't know. I don't know what else Wheeler is going to be able to do with this team. It really feels like this is just kind of like running through the bases. Maybe he tries some new things. Maybe he tries to figure out something to do different with his lineup. I thought it was interesting. This team kind of came out in kind of a very basic 4-4-2 and played to it. And they didn't look terrible. They looked kind of okay. So maybe this is something we see kind of more. Let's dial it down. Let's get back to basics. Let's not try to overcomplicate things, and kind of, hit the reset button on everything. I think if they come out and they get a couple wins, maybe they don't make it interesting, I guess, at this point. But if they get a couple wins, they avoid the wooden spoon. I think that could be deemed as a positive. Really, I think this is all going to come down to what is coming in here to help us out next year. A lot of people being negative about who they're going to bring in. And I would say, well, honestly, if you're a designated player and you come in, you really, you have an opportunity where not a lot really matters. You can kind of figure yourself out. You can get yourself situated. You can sort of get to know the players, play some games, maybe do some things that'll be interesting. But knowing that the games don't really matter and you're really setting yourself up to where you can enter next year and, there isn't the pressure, I guess, to come in and immediately make a difference. So I don't know. That might be a selling point for some players looking to get a big payday to come here to Major League Soccer. So we'll see what happens. There's still some time in the window, and things do kind of fly fast. We'll see when Wheeler gets into the field, whether things change, whether we have a player rumor to talk about next year. Please let it be something other than really the only rumor we've gotten specifically has been Griffin Yao. I guess we were in the running for that RSL striker, but that didn't happen. Yeah. And I guess also, what was it? The Laquinhos, the Red Bull player, but that's been it so far. I think a lot of it, I think there are talks happening again, as I said. I think they are looking to make signings. I think they will make some form of a signing. I think the question is going to be, what is going to be the impact? What is going to be the magnitude of that signing? I think is the real question we should be asking. Because I don't know. I don't have a sense as to what that impact is going to be. So we'll see. Anyway, guys, that's it. Probably a long, rambly podcast, but it's hard when I don't have John to keep me centered and focused. So we'll be back next week, I'm sure. Hopefully, maybe talking about a win. Who are we kidding? Probably not. Maybe we'll have a new player to discuss. Maybe we'll be closing in on the window and we'll actually have something concrete to talk about. The window does close, I believe, on the 21st, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe we'll have something to discuss. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. We will catch you guys next week. Vamos.